Welcome to the PaynePoints Podcast. We tell the stories of small businesses, the people that run them, and the journey they are on. Our purpose is to gather a new perspective on starting, growing, maturing, and maintaining businesses of all sizes. So grab that cup of coffee, sit back, and join us as we start the conversation. Okay, we're here with the brainchild and creator of PaynePoints, Michael Payne. Michael, will you give us and I mean it for real, a brief bio of yourself? You know, where you're from, your family and home life, how old you are, and your current position at PaynePoints.
That's great. Yeah, just right off the bat, give them everything they need to know. No, this guy talks too much. So I was born and raised in northwestern New Jersey.
He's going all the way back.
I was gonna say, I did not know
all
that.
the way back, and I have 5 siblings, and that was crazy growing up.
Sure.
I started working professionally at 14 and a half years old in software development, and then in 2006 I moved to Texas because New Jersey got way too expensive. And so I've been here since then, and did a short stint unloading trucks for Walmart, and eventually found my way into the IT world here in East Texas. And I've been working in different companies in the area since then. In 2018, I left full-time employment and took the risk of taking on freelance contract work, and that's when PaynePoints started happening. That's when I started building the company, not really knowing what it is, what I really do, other than I make software that works, and I help other people make software that, works.
You provide a service that people are willing to pay you for.
Now, you haven't touched on the fact that you have a wife and children.
I haven't, and that is a point of contention.
Probably mention that.
If you look at all my bios online, right, they all start with like CIO or something like that, and my wife is constantly like, "That should be dad first."
Yes,
yeah,
Liz, I got you back.
Yeah, so my wife, I met my wife Elizabeth in 2009. We got married a year later.
Nice.
We have 4 kids, age ranges 16 to 3.
Woo!
And yeah,
Fun times.
the younger 3 are boys. And I just spent the entire weekend watching them beat each other up, like quite literally. Wrestling matches in our living room.
3 boys, right? That's how that's what happens.
Every 5 minutes, somebody's crying about something that hurt.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you didn't punch each other,
it wouldn't hurt. Yeah. Welcome to parenthood. What was your first job? Like your
first official?
What started you on your journey?
My first official job, I worked for a company called Hey Band in Mahwah, New Jersey, and this is a mail order clothing company. And I was doing IT help desk. They hired the youngest person they possibly could to help all the people in the company at the company headquarters, use their computers. And so
they needed somebody who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So they got somebody young.
They were ahead of the curve, actually. Hire the millennial. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
They know about computers.
My boss at the time was the one who got me into more doing software development when people weren't asking me questions. Mm-hmm. So he just kind of fed that interest and had me start doing stuff and reading books. And that was always what I was like. I was always opening a book, reading it cover to cover, and just doing the things in the book to learn.
Nice.
So that's what I did there.
Do you remember what you made per hour?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Let's see. I think initially it was just like minimum wage for New Jersey area, which was like about, at that time, this was actually really good, like 8 something an hour.
Oh wow,
Nice.
that was really good.
Because
Yeah.
like real minimum wage, go working at a grocery store was like 6 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you like the job? Obviously, it seemed like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
No, I ended
Yeah.
up doing that one. I was that was one of the first places to actually offer any sort of remote work when I went back to school.
So you did it part time.
That I would dial
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
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 Very
Yeah.
cool.
Nice. So I guess that job probably did a lot to prepare you for what you do now.
It really established the foundations.
Yeah.
You know, surprisingly enough, like a lot of what I do in my work is just troubleshooting.
Yeah.
And so with the background in helping people with their computers and troubleshooting their problems gave me the ability to troubleshoot code, both my own and somebody else's.
Nice. Nice. So that was a good first job to have.
Absolutely.
And then pretty much every job you've had since, with a couple of exceptions, has all been in that same vein.
Yes. I tried
That's pretty
very
rare,
hard to
actually.
Yeah,
stay
it is.
in my field. You know, I recognize the importance of my experience being related, and that the more it was related, the more successful I could be in the future as it grew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
pretty smart, actually.
Very.
What advice would you give your younger self to set you up for better success in the future if you could go back and talk to him? Hey, do this.
Honestly, I think the biggest piece of advice has nothing to do with writing software. It's all about motivation, lack of, stopping procrastination. That was the big thing. Was it took me until I was much older, much later in my career to get past the procrastination or being late or just, always feeling tired or thinking I'm tired. Just a couple hours a day, man. Like, you don't even need to do everything all at once. The longer you wait to do something, the harder it's just going to be. So go get it done.
Yeah.
And then don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I think that's
It's a very good piece of advice.
because I think we've all kind of gotten to, I'll just put that off till
I'll
tomorrow.
do it later. I'll do it later. No.
So kiddies, don't procrastinate. That's a good piece of
Yeah.
advice for a future
you get
reference.
You get that worry off your mind for the
Next thing.
the
that'll come
low
along.
price of just getting it done, getting it over with, doing it right now.
Yep. All right, Mike. Well, thanks for dropping in your very, very busy schedule and letting us know all about your first job and a brief little biography of your life.
No, it was great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. All right, we're here with Ben Harbuck. Ben, why don't you tell everybody a tiny bit about yourself, like the Cliff's Notes version, where you're from, how old you are, your family life, and your current position at PaynePoints.
My name is Ben Harbuck. I'm 41 years old. I guess I'm like the creative. I don't know what I am at PaynePoint.
Mastermind.
Doesn't know what his title is.
Yeah, what are titles? Do titles have
I don't know.
meanings?
Michael's very, very particular about that, so I just thought,
okay, then Michael would probably call me the Chief Heart Officer.
Okay,
Okay.
good deal. And, do you have children? Are
I
you
have-
married? Do you have other businesses?
I have 3 children with you. I'm married to you.
is
And
this person?
I live in Lufkin, Texas.
All right.
Awesome.
What was your first job?
My first job, I was 13 years old, I believe, and I got an apprenticeship at Dentistry for Children here in Lufkin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
And I
Doesn't that violate some child
Yeah, I was
labor
going to say,
laws?
is this that long? You're not that old.
I'm 41, so let's see. Let's do
in
the
the early
math.
90s.
this
It would have
before-
been 1992,
Was this-
1993.
Because I think, you had to be, if you were under 15? You had to have like a parent's, legal, like,
Yeah,
saying that you could.
we signed some paperwork, and I don't think I worked more than like 3 or 4 hours a day,
Yeah.
and maybe 2 days a week.
Yeah.
But basically what I did was I learned how to, when you go to the dentist and get impressions made,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, I learned how to pour the plaster in those impressions. So I made the molds of people's mouth, and then I would build retainers based on that.
Interesting.
So
Do you remember were you paid at all, or was like a true internship where you got nothing?
Yeah.
No, I think I was paid a little bit, but it probably it was definitely more of like a job in training.
Yeah.
Like we were going to make a business out of it when I was
Right.
older.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I learned from that job really quickly, though, is I love art, so I loved the job because I was working with plaster, I was working with plastic, and I was working with wire.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
It's like sculpture in a way.
Yeah.
It really was.
But you could make a sculpture that was comfortable in somebody's mouth.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but there was one problem. I only got to interact with people for like 5 minutes a week when the thing went in their mouth.
Yeah.
And sometimes not then, because I was so young, I couldn't be there for all of it. So I would make these things. So basically, after a year, I pretty much went and talked to my parents and kind of quit because there were no people around. And I don't do well without people. And so, but that was a really interesting thing. So by the time I was 14, I knew I had to work with people.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to. It was a requirement. Like if there were no people in the room, I probably couldn't do it.
So that's in a way kind of taught you, how to prepare you for future jobs.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good segue to the to my next question, which is how did it prepare you for
I think it basically kind of confused me for a little while because even though I was young, I had all these things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then I found out from that job, like, oh, well, I can't do it if there's not 10 people around, because I would come out of those days like really high anxiety because I hadn't talked to anyone all day. I'd been stuck in a room by myself with no feedback other than the art.
Yeah.
And it just drove me crazy. So I think the next few jobs I got had to do with they had to do with more people, more being out in public,
right.
More conversations. And then from there, I think as I got older, I got jobs in food service industry. I got jobs in, and you say, well, all that's normal. Yeah, but mine was really pointed because I did it because I wanted to be around people.
Right.
It wasn't as much, it became less about what I was doing and more who I was with.
So your big takeaway was, I know for the future, I'm going to have to work with people and not be stuck in some little cubicle somewhere. Yeah. Did it teach you anything else work ethic wise, or was that like really the only thing you really remember about that job?
I think the other thing I remember about the job is just how much I liked small objects, like everything that goes
your hands, little
like little
things.
Bitty tiny things.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized I was going to be a tattoo artist at the time, but it's kind of funny now looking back how many of the items that I used to make the model of people's teeth. You
right.
end up scraping the plaster and polishing the plaster and doing all these little fine details under a microscope. And then 20 years later, I'm using a single needle, dot by dot to make. And so there's a lot of similarities there. But that, I think the bigger takeaway was just that my personality, if I don't have other humans that I'm in direct contact with, I don't do well.
So this kind of, I'm sure we've probably answered this question already, but what advice would you give your younger self now to set you up for success going forward? And it sounds like you already have done that, but is there anything else that you want to mention that we haven't covered so far?
I think one of the biggest problems I had back then was my concept of time. I did that job maybe 3 months and started freaking out. Because it felt
so long.
It felt like I was going to be doing something I hated, like I was going to be stuck in that closet forever.
Yeah.
And I think if I had to go back and tell my younger self something, it would be like, not that I was wrong necessarily, that time felt long then, but I would go set 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month goals.
Yeah.
So that you can play this out.
Right.
Because,
to be fair though, 30 minutes is a long time to a 13-year-old.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that now, like, I tattoo so many people and I talk to so many people about business, and I work a lot with 18 to 30-year-olds, and everybody is kind of, especially in that 18 to 30-year-old range,
Yeah.
they think a year is forever.
Yeah.
And I try to break it down because now that I'm 41,
Yeah.
a year is so fast.
So fast.
It's just like the blink of an eye and a
Right.
year's gone.
Right,
You know, and
right.
so in that I know you can't teach someone to feel differently about time.
No,
but
it's something that comes with experience, and then you look back and you go, I wish I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hindsight
knew
is
that
always
when I was
20/20, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, so breaking down goals into 1 month, 3 month, or 1 year, I think would
Okay.
be probably better.
Good deal.
Nice.
Well, thanks for popping in and talking with us this morning and sharing your first job experience.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, we are here with Sam Harbuck. Sam, why don't you give us a little bit of a miniature bio about yourself and your current position here at PaynePoints?
My name is Sam Harbuck. I am 36, I believe. 2020. Yes, I'm 36.
It's been a hard year. We can't remember how old we are.
I did the same thing.
It definitely has. I am married. I do not have any kids. I live in Lufkin, Texas. My current position, if you ask Mike, is Chief Financial Officer.
Ah,
So I get to handle all the money and fun things like that.
so you're the one that keeps us running.
Yes.
Make sure we can afford all these fancy equipment
Right,
things
yeah,
that we got going on.
Right.
What did you do for your first job?
My first job was, I was either 16 or 17. I started working at Subway as a sandwich artist.
Oh, a
And-
sandwich
Oh
artist.
yeah, and it's such a great title. Sandwich artist. It makes you.
Putting together these amazing works of art that you
Yeah.
eat.
So I was
mean,
there
you know.
for about a year and a half, or maybe it was a while. It was a very small one. It was one of the smallest ones in town.
It's a long time to hold down a job for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. The thing that was interesting about that, being a smaller one, a lot of the shifts, especially in the evening, you had to work by yourself.
Oh.
So like in the busy times, like, you know, dinner or something, you'd have somebody there. But then for the last 4 or 5 hours, you'd be working alone.
Did you enjoy that?
It took a little bit of getting used to, but I actually did.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it because I don't know, it was easier to stay busy because you had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Did you remember how much you made per hour? Is that something you want to share?
It was minimum wage. It was $5.15.
So that's
Okay,
really
yeah.
dating us a little bit.
Yeah, I know. That's how
Um,
much mine was. Yep.
And did you work? Was it a part-time job or was it almost full-time?
It was part-time.
Part-time.
Because I was also pretty soon after I started that, I got a job working for a graphic designer
Oh.
in town.
Industrious 16-year-old.
Yes. I
Family of
enjoyed that one.
entrepreneurs,
Yes.
basically. So what would you say that job did to prepare you for any future jobs going forward?
Definitely, it taught me a sense of hard work, because you're not really, especially in something like that, you're not really allowed to slack off. And even with, it helped me enjoy it as well. There was another guy I worked with there that we got along really well. And it almost, we'd almost get to the point of having a competition of seeing how fast we could work. Like during a lunch shift, like how fast can we go? How many sandwiches can we serve? How quick can we go to get our time down? Say from 12 to 1, how many sandwiches can we put out and how few? I think one time we got to for a whole hour, it was like 50 seconds per customer from
Wow.
the time they ordered. And that was really fun to me because I enjoy competition and things like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a game.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's one way to make the hours go by faster, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, but it definitely helped me learn to enjoy hard work, and definitely even working by myself. I think probably because I still work a lot by myself on certain side projects and stuff. But I think that's where I first got into that, and I think that's kind of where my enjoyment for that and being by myself kind of started.
Nice.
deal.
What advice would you give your younger self, like to help set yourself up for future success?
I probably would have told myself not to worry so much about the future, to kind of slow down and enjoy what I was doing, and not necessarily try to have a plan, to know what I'm doing in 2 years or 3 years. It's not. It's good to have a plan, but it's not that big a deal if you don't know what you want to do 10 years down the road.
Well, you also have to be able to be flexible, because you have a plan, and then,
This year's taught us that,
yeah,
you can plan all you want to, but it's probably not going to work out for you.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for popping in today and letting us know all about your first job and all the things that go along with that. So
nice talking
Definitely.
to you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're back with this special episode with all of the PaynePoints employees, and I'm sitting here with Nick Verico. And Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family life, your current position at PaynePoints?
I've lived all over, 6 different states, moved 24 times now.
Oh my gosh.
And I am the youngest of 4. Yeah, the youngest of 4. My closest sibling is 16 years older than me.
Wow.
And I am a software developer.
For PaynePoints. Okay, well, that I would love to get into all the places you've lived, but we don't have time. But that sounds like an interesting little featurette for later on, perhaps.
Definitely.
What was your first job? Like, what did you do? What were your responsibilities? Where was this first job?
So if we go back all the way back before the Army, when I was 16, I got my GED, and my mom moved us to San Diego. I went to college for a little while, and I got a C in my graphics design class, but I always showed up well-dressed, and she had promised us at the beginning that we were going to present our design projects to clients as kind of a test run to get experience. So I kept asking, and I kept showing up in slacks and a button-up shirt. So a couple months after the class, she knew I was really good with technical, working on computers and things. So she called me up and said, hey, do you want to do some work for me for some graphic design stuff? She had 20,000 pictures that she had to go through and put in a document. So I did for a few weeks, and then they were changing over from older technology to newer technology. So she sent me an email and said, hey, do you want to come work and help us migrate all of our tech stuff? So I went back to the same company and worked. And this was AECOM, used to be called EDA. They're a worldwide construction and engineering planning firm. So here I was, 16 years old, working in an office that made multi-millions. And so after a while, I did the tech stuff, and they said, well, you're really good at this, but you don't have the certificates or the degrees that we want to see if we're going to hire you full-time in this. But we like you so much that we're going to offer you an administrative assistant position. So I'm sitting with the principal of the office, and that office was probably bringing in millions of dollars, and their chief financial officer for the office. So they said, well, how much money do you want to make? And I said, well, I want $20 an hour. And they both laughed at me, and they said, well, how's 15? And I said, sounds good to me.
As a 16-year-old, $15 an
Well,
hour.
yeah, I was closer to 17 then.
Okay. That's pretty amazing. What year was this?
This would have been 2000 and I don't know how old I am now. 16 years ago, almost.
So 2004, maybe?
Yeah, 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. So it was really good money back then.
Yeah. Really good money now.
So, and the cool part was I could set my own hours. I could show up when I wanted to, leave when I wanted to, pick up all the side projects I wanted to. So I ended up teaching classes to executives about computer fundamentals. And at the time, I didn't know how to manage work-life balance, so I had no life. So I burnt myself out doing like 3 60-hour weeks in a row. I had my 18th birthday in the office, actually.
Wow.
That's not typically a first-time job
No,
kind of experience.
I was
like
thinking-
most people like work at McDonald's.
Well,
or like
okay,
Blockbuster or
So
something
if
like that.
If you go a little bit further back, I had these odd jobs. I worked at Radio Shack before I moved to California.
Okay.
And
So the typical retail experience.
yeah. So
Gotcha.
I'd worked at Radio Shack and Carl's Jr. at that point.
Okay.
Funny story about the Carl's Jr. So I worked there for about 3 weeks and then I got fired.
Okay.
Well,
How did you manage that?
So I didn't know what was going on, right? So I was a very sheltered kid and I wasn't into drugs, didn't do drugs, nothing of the sort. So I got fired, and about 3 weeks later I went back in, and it was a Carl's Jr. inside of a retail store, Fred Meyer, which
Yeah.
and there was a
East Coast
different
thing,
and there was a different crew working. So I said, "Hey, where's Cindy and the other?" They said, "Oh yeah, they all got arrested and fired. They'd have been skimming money off the top and selling drugs out of the restaurant."
So you were like the only clean employee, and they had to get rid of you.
Yeah, so they got rid of me. Not
Wow.
not that I knew anything. It wasn't like that. I think they got rid of me to shield me, in part, because Cindy was an older woman and she liked me. So
So you did have some retail jobs before the big, big first job.
Yeah, I had a few in-betweener jobs, and I turned down a couple of jobs that would have been good fits. And then,
Still, that's a really great experience so young, from 16 to 18, working for a multi-million-dollar company and having that kind of jump start. What would you say, how did that first job prepare you for any future jobs or the job you currently have?
well, it gave me a mindset of how to act and how to speak truth to power. So I was sat on the desk one day, and I was supposed to log everybody going in and out. And so I took my job pretty seriously. And so one of the executives walked out, and I said, "Hey, where you go? I'll write down on the list so we can keep track of who's." And they said, "Oh, we're just going to lunch." She said, "When will you be back?" or something. But anyways, I had done it very inappropriately for a lower level admin assistant. And so I kind of got yelled at a little bit. I got snapped at by her and then called into the executive assistant and told, "Don't do that."
Yeah, it's those things like that that sort of stick with you and teach you, okay, I gotta do this later on. Because when you're young and you get yelled at by an older person with seniority, it tends to make you go, well, you feel a little bit of shame, like, oh, I did the wrong thing. But then also it kind of triggers this like memory response of, okay, don't do that again. I'll do it better in the future. So.
Well, I've since learned to just speak the truth all the time, but not over things where somebody has authority.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just a good practice in life in general. What advice would you give your younger self now to set you up for success going forward that you wish you had known then?
Slow down a little bit so I didn't get burnt out. Had I kept that job, they would have paid for school. I could have gotten all kinds of certificates. I could have been working in the tech sector in that company. Like they really tried to keep me around. And then when I left, I pretty much burned the bridges and quit without notice and just had a full-on burnout meltdown. So
balance.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, Nick. Well, thanks for taking some time out of your day to come and tell us all about your first job and what you do here and all that jazz. So we'll catch y'all next time.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, well, it's the ladies of the PaynePoints Podcast, and we're going to talk about our first jobs. I'm going to start with Megan. Why don't you very quickly give us a little brief bio and your current position here at PaynePoints?
I'm 21. My name is Megan Harbuck, and I was born and raised in Lufkin, Texas. I love K-pop and anime and video games
And rainbows.
and rainbows and
things
sparkly
rainbows.
things. My position at PaynePoints is the media and podcast producer. I was recently promoted. Yay! And yeah, I do all of the social media content creation and am in charge of the podcast. So good deal.
Nice.
Kristen, what about you?
My name is Kristin Ellis. I am 30.
Something.
6. How old am I?
You're like
I'm
Sam.
in my mid to late 30s. I am married. I have 2 small children, a 3-year-old and a almost 6-month-old. And I am, I guess, the sidekick here at the PaynePoints Podcast. That's basically all I do. I show up, hand somebody my kid, say, have fun, and I go sit and talk to these wonderful people and get a break. It's lovely.
Yes. Mom, what about you? So my name is Sarah Harbuck, and obviously I am the host of the PaynePoints Podcast. I am 41. Oh, boy. I am married for almost 22 years. I have 3 children. One of them is sitting to my left currently. They range in age from 21 all the way down to 12. And my current position here at PaynePoints is host of the podcast and director of media, and also
I was gonna
basically
say a little bit of everything.
running the company,
Yeah.
keeping it organized, and straight.
She keeps everybody in line and makes sure that
Keep everything organized.
Yeah, keep everything organized. Make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be
I'm
doing.
sure if Michael were sitting here and he was like, your official position is the chief operations officer, because he's real big on
COO.
positions,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I don't care.
We'll call you the COO. It sounds fancy.
Yeah, super fancy.
But
Love that.
Okay, so let's start with Megan. What was your very first job? What did you do? Like, what were your responsibilities, and where was it located?
So, my first job when I was 14 years old, like literally a month after I turned 14, was working at Standpipe Coffee House, which is our family's coffee shop in Lufkin, Texas.
it's a lovely little shop. Y'all should drop by and check it out.
I agree. And so basically I had always had a lot of drive to get a job. I had babysat, for family members and stuff like that. But before this point, I had never had a real job that I was, getting taxes taken out of a paycheck and having to file and whatnot. And so I was a barista. I got my, sometime in December, like maybe a week or two after I turned 14, I went to the health department and got my food handler's license. I was definitely the youngest person there by like a landslide.
Nice.
And, a lot of people will say, Megan, like, you were 14 like 7 years ago. Like, how is that possible? Child labor laws. I actually ended up looking up the child labor laws in Texas myself.
Educate us.
So that way I could like convince Dad, like, we have a family coffee shop, like, let me work, let me earn a wage. Since I wasn't getting any kind of an allowance, and just calling out Mom there. But I really
I don't get an allowance for cleaning the house. You shouldn't either.
Right?
So I looked up the laws myself, like found all the code and stuff, and essentially what I found was you could start working at 14 if it was for a family business and it followed all of the regular minor laws. So I couldn't work before a certain time. I couldn't work after a certain time.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed my job as a barista. I kept it for nearly 5 years. And yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Do you remember how much you made an hour?
I started at $7.25 an hour.
That
which
was
is
the current minimum wage at the time. I think
Yeah.
that's still the current minimum
Is it?
wage.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting a raise eventually, but started at
Yeah,
$7.25, and I made tips. So
Yeah.
How did that job kind of prepare you for every other job you've had since?
well, I've learned how to work with people. I think that everybody at some point should have some kind of customer service job.
I very much agree with that.
And so, I haven't worked in customer service in a few years now, but I learned how to handle people, whether they be belligerent or rude or confused or whatever. I learned how to work with a team and work with people that maybe I didn't necessarily get along with, but had to work with anyway. I mean,
also
so
learn
all
to
the
be nice.
skills.
it taught me.
Well, and you also learn to be nice to other people in service industries because
Exactly.
they're working hard. And,
Exactly.
and they deal with a lot, so be nice.
It definitely gives you a different kind of perspective. But yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, that was during my formative years, so I learned several things.
Do you have any advice you would give your younger self?
Hey, just ask Mom and Dad for an allowance. See what you can do around the house. Don't get a job at 14, you dumb teenager. Don't do that. Because once you start, you can't.
You're not
never
gonna
stop
stop.
You can't. You can't get out of it.
Enjoy your childhood.
Yeah, enjoy your childhood, kiddo, because it's not gonna get any better.
We tried to tell you, but you
I
would
know.
not listen.
No, and
I mean, technically, free room and board is a pretty awesome allowance.
It's
sure
true.
is.
It's true. But no, I think that I probably would have told my younger self, just hold off. It's not necessary just yet. Wait until you're 15.
Everybody's so excited and ready they want to grow up so fast, and then they grow up and they're like, oh,
This is crap.
I want to go back. I made a mistake.
Adulting is a mistake.
Yeah, really though.
Well, Kristin, why don't you tell us a little bit about your first job, what your responsibilities were? And
I have a quick question first. Are we like on the books first job, or am I telling on myself?
whatever you feel comfortable sharing to the public.
My first on the books tax paying job was as a waitress.
Because all of us were babysitters at one point.
I mean,
so I don't count that as a first job. You know?
I did have another first job working at a sign shop, but technically I was too young and I was working with sharp implements and lots of chemicals, and I wasn't supposed to be doing it. So that was a cash under the table job. So we won't talk about that one.
But you were a waitress. Yes,
I was a
let's talk about
waitress.
that.
Yes, I was a waitress. I started at the Jalapeno Tree in Carthage, Texas, where I grew up. And back then, we didn't have fancy computers and stuff. So you started as a waitress or waiter or server, whatever you want to call it. And you worked your way up to hostess because the hostess handled the money. And then I worked my way up all the way up to assistant manager before I left for college in that.
Wow.
So,
What did you make starting out?
$2.25 an hour plus.
I don't think that's changed actually.
Nope. And the longer I was there, though, you would get every year you could get up to $1 raise. So by the time I left, by the time I quit waiting tables, I was making $5.50 or $5.75 an hour plus tips, which was that's bank.
Yeah.
Back then, yeah. So,
how did that first job kind of prepare you for every job you had later?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Megan said. I think everybody should work in some sort of food service or retail or customer service position, because it does teach you a whole lot about dealing with the public and handling different situations and thinking on your feet and, how
diffusing situations.
Yeah, how to
Definitely.
be nice to people. I did get, not so much when I was waiting tables, but when I became the assistant manager, I learned a whole lot about, in a lot of situations in life, it doesn't matter whose responsibility it is. It doesn't matter. It's not it's not my turn. I'm not supposed to. It does just, if it needs to be done, just do it. Get it done. Just get it done, get it over with. Everything is going to run so much smoother.
Definitely.
So that helped a lot, and especially in what I do, working from home now with 2 small children, that just get it over with, get it done when you have the opportunity.
Yep.
Do it.
Yep. Take the time, do it.
Yep.
What advice would you give your younger self to, be more successful going forward?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, this year has been just a doozy of relearning how to do everything.
Yeah. I think, pivot, be more flexible. Don't, you don't have to, this whole idea of who you should be, who you're supposed to be, take a little time and learn who you really are, and learn how to think on your feet. And doesn't have to be so structured, and you don't have to be what you think you're supposed to be or what other people think you're supposed to be. Just do you.
Yeah, that's such a big thing before we jump into moms. Yeah, I totally agree with that, because when you're young, you have all of these ideas of who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I had that, and it actually caused a pretty big downfall in my early adulthood, because I thought that life was supposed to be all these different things, and then as you get into adulthood, it's not exactly what you think it is, and
everybody's story is different,
Yeah.
and your story may be a whole lot different than you think it's gonna be or should be, and sometimes you gotta learn to just pivot and
go the
go the other way.
Immediate left turn.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So, Mom, what was your first job?
So first official job, I turned 16, and a week later, my dad was like, "All right, get a job." That sounds like
Right?
Grandpa. And, you know, my stepmother at the time worked for the Berkshire Brothers corporate office, which is a local regional grocery chain here.
Yeah.
And so some nepotism was involved. She knew one of
Gotta
the
love
managers.
nepotism.
Yeah, she knew one of the managers at the store right next to our neighborhood, the Berkshire store. Berkshire's number one is what it was
Number
called.
one.
The number
All
one store.
right.
She knew her, and she was like, "Hey, we've got a daughter that needs to get a job. What do you got available?" And she was like, and her name was Charlotte, and she was like, "I can totally hook her up." And I got a job in the video and floral department. This was back when
Oh.
Berkshire Brothers used to have the
Like VHS tapes?
VHS tapes, and you could rent
Nice.
kind of like a mini Blockbuster inside the grocery store. And then the floral department, when the florist went home, I was responsible for, you know, helping somebody pick out stuff or wrapping up roses or
Yeah,
little minor
yeah.
things, nothing, you know, big time floral arranging. But so I worked in the video department mostly. I, you know, entered movies into the system when they came in, checked them out to people.
Put them in the machine to make sure they were rewound.
Right. And then, you know, check them back in and put them back out on the shelves and, you know, handled money. And
Yeah.
I worked at that job for 2.5 years. I started, I believe minimum wage at the time was $4.15 an hour
Yeah.
or $4.25 an hour, something like that. This was back in like 1994. It was
dollar-
a while ago.
The dollar was more valuable
It
back
was
then.
definitely different. And I had some measure of responsibility when I did leave that job. I was kind of like the assistant manager of the area.
Yeah.
Not that that really meant a whole lot or did anything different. They tried to train me as a checker out front the entire time I would work there and never got trained for it because it was always so busy in the videos department. I couldn't
That
leave
you
it
couldn't
alone.
Leave to
Yeah, so
go
they never
train.
had time to train me to work
Yeah.
as a checker, and I was so glad for that because the checkers all hated their jobs and their tills never matched, you know, and all the things.
Oh yeah, that's a terrible thing to have to.
Yeah, so
balance
I
a
was like,
till.
I did
Yeah.
not want to have to stress with that. I was already stressed enough trying to keep the video till straightened out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So yeah, that was my very first job.
Nice.
I had a great boss. My immediate manager, her name was Carissa. She was great, and so it really kind of gave me a relatively good experience going into the workforce that, you know, could have gone in the complete other direction given, you know, just that type of job can be not a great one. So yeah, my first job.
Nice. How would you say that job prepared you for the future?
I mean, it definitely taught me all the types of skills that you learn in any kind of first job
Yeah.
where, you know, be on time, be
Yes.
communicative with your superiors. You know, it taught me how to work with other people, but I was
Right.
mostly back there by myself. You know, I never really worked a shift during my training period, yes, but like pretty much you were just the only person back there responsible for
Yeah.
what was going on. So learning how to work alone and do it efficiently, learning how to handle money, just all the things that you would learn in a first job that help you just be, you know, a good person
Yeah.
in the workforce,
Yeah.
you know, later
Just
on.
life skills that you need
Yeah,
to know.
just
Yeah.
Typical things you
absolutely.
don't learn, you know, working for family or as a babysitter, as we just talked about. Like we
Yeah,
all did
yeah.
babysitting as a first job, but that doesn't
Yeah.
really that
Count.
doesn't really prepare you for the real world sometimes.
No,
so
no.
it definitely taught me all those things that you need going forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you have any advice you would give yourself, your younger self, now that you're older and wiser and?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been learning my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, and the biggest thing, and you guys have talked about it, is, you know, don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
There were a lot of preconceived ideas I had about, well, by the time I'm this age, I need to be
I
this.
need to have- yeah.
And by this age, I
Yep.
need to be doing this. And none of those things worked out because,
Yeah.
hey, life happens.
Right.
And I was so disappointed because I
Life
hit
is
30.
what happens when you're busy making plans.
Yeah, I hit 30 and was like, my life isn't anything like what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I was real disappointed by that. And, you know, you learn, okay, well, that's just this silly expectation I had.
Yeah.
No one's putting that on me. I'm putting it on myself.
Right.
And so I think I would just not. Sure, you should have goals and you should have things that you're working
Absolutely,
towards. But
yes.
I put a lot of undue stress on myself to be at a certain point at a certain age and
Yeah.
accumulate certain things. And I'm basically now at the age where my life's a lot more comfortable and I'm making good money and you know, and
Yeah.
that's the age that most people are when they hit that kind of level of success.
And you didn't get there. There.
There?
I talk good, y'all. You didn't get there the way you thought you were going to get there,
No.
but you still, it's
You still get there. You just
yeah,
get there. You
you're-
take a different train. You take a different mode of transportation that you didn't originally plan for. So I
Right.
think it's anybody listening who's young, do not hold yourself to an unattainable standard.
Yes.
And forgive yourself a little bit when you don't, you're not journeying down the exact road you thought you'd be down.
Yeah, because you're not gonna.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not. So,
And if you do, then God bless you. You are one in a bazillion.
yeah, for
Because it
real.
didn't happen that way for anybody else.
And yeah, definitely. So, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this fun little episode that we're going to air during the holidays and learning all about our first jobs and
All the
how
fun
it's helped
things.
us, in our life today. So, guys, have a great, wonderful week, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Happy New Year. Do you have a story to tell? We want to hear it. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast and share your story, contact us on our website at PaynePoints.com or any of the social media linked on our website. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. We'd appreciate a review, a like, or a comment to let us know what you think. You can find all of our podcasts linked on our website under the podcast tab. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we want to wish everybody a wonderful day.